It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Friday, March 1st, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Until the End with Daniel Baker, the Wednesday Message Word Study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? And yes, the weekend, it is here. It is Friday. I'm really excited. Yes, and for me, by the time you guys are listening to this, I have already dropped off my friends at the airport and I am sleeping. I am just going to be sleeping for the next 2 days. I have my 2 days off, so I hope you guys have been enjoying your week too. I have spent a lot of time driving and taking my friends around. Really amazing time, but yeah, I'm so happy that all this is finally over and I can just relax a little bit more. Don't forget, we have Q&A every single Thursday, so get those questions ready and send them to me whenever you can. If you haven't yet, leave a like and comment for today's video, and let's build our community through communication and... what's that word? Conversation, right? So I'm super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive, so let's get up and support each other each and every day. The Sunday message title for this week: it is the history of the 1,000-year wedding banquet. I will repay you according to your deeds. Yes, everyone, it is the first day of the month. Leap year, the leap year extra day, February 29th is officially done. We are into March. We have like a little bit over 2 weeks before March 16th comes into, we have March 16th. Everyone is getting ready to have an amazing, amazing event for 316. It's just around the corner. We're going to commemorate the day of the rapture. And I hope that everyone is preparing well, especially for those that are new, that are going to have their very first commemorative rapture day together. Let's make this a powerful one that commemorates the first year after 2023, which means we're into a new time. 2023 has ended a complete time period, 45 and a half years. That is the time of the central figure. We're not sure what it actually means right now because a lot of things have changed because of the grave period and for the cross that was born. But the one thing I do know that Sunseem said he's going to run for another 10 years for the 10 years he lost there. So that would be like 2033, but let's just see what happens there. And you know what? Like I said, I'm excited from yesterday because my friend from Taiwan, not a fortune teller, but the feng shui person said people born 1978, 20 years of fortune and abundance. And that is a great thing for me because that's my year. All right. So this is the last podcast for this week, so I'll have some time to rest for sure. It's very, very good because it's the beginning of March also, and I hope that everyone is going to enjoy this as much as possible. So one of the things I am making sure, of course, I had plans in the making to start the live stream for the YouTube channel for Espresso, and I'm going to change that channel's name too. But I know that I had all these guests coming over, so I couldn't really do it. So now I'm going to put myself a deadline for the first live stream. It's going to be on a Tuesday night in Malaysia time. So if you're in Southeast Asia, most likely it'll be like 8:30 p.m. It's going to be about an hour live stream. And, and people can join, listen to it, and you guys can chime in and talk about the things that, you can add comments and stuff that I think a lot of people are going to bring up to me too. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to get that done really, really soon. I just got to rebrand that channel as best as I can. All right, and speaking of internet ministry, Sunseem has given some, the Korean headquarters has given some, direction for internet ministry. And some of the things that they brought up is, I think this is old education. This part is old. There's new education, but there's old education, which Sunseem said, teach the word slowly and comfortably. See each other to talk with each other. And you speak one sentence, right? What does it say? See each other to talk to each other. You speak one sentence, and then Then I will speak one sentence for talking to each other. So like speaking together, right? Like discussion almost. Gently and slowly teaching. Don't give too many things, too many ideas at once. The point is to make the person really understand and realize. right? Don't talk too openly about the core. Instead, give direction and let the person decide for themselves, right? So the example Sasim gave, and I remember this education too, says it's like wearing a swimsuit. When you see the swimsuit, then you will decide that it's a boy or a girl. Leave it to the person's own decision and let them realize. So when teaching, it's necessary to teach very simple and the core so that it can be absorbed, right? So Sansi was also saying, like, when you're describing a girl, like a girl is very beautiful, right? You don't spend 3 hours just saying she's very beautiful. Oh, she's so beautiful. She's really beautiful. It's better to be very clear in detail. This person's face is shaped like an egg. And the facial features are well proportioned, like in this type of way, like in this way of explaining. So after the other party listens, then you can make your own judgment. So this is really, really good. And part of it, Sunseem gave direction for internet ministry too, which is the part of don't talk too openly about the core. Leave it to the person's own decision. So that is something that I have to take into consideration when I'm doing internet ministry for the future also. But, the beginning education is also talking about teaching in general, right? Teach the word slowly, comfortably, look at each other, talk to each other. You say one thing, they say one thing, back and forth, gently and slowly, not too many details, not too many ideas at once. Make the person really understand and realize. Okay, so that I think is, this is direction that came out from Korean headquarters. So when I listen to this, like, oh yeah, I remember what Sunseem said this in the past too. And I think it's something that all of us can really think about even more deeply too. Okay. Yesterday there was one person who sent me questions on, what was it? Was it SoundCloud or Patreon? I think it's on Patreon. So I didn't see the questions until now. So they're very, very good questions here too. And I think that you guys will really, really enjoy these ones. Also, I should have done them yesterday. I just didn't see it until it was too late. Okay, so here's some of the questions. The first question is, since the way of calculating a year differs in each time period, how can we tell that the Old Testament is 4,000 years old, like from the Bible, right? So it's true. One of the things that is a little bit confusing is, like we heard in the Old Testament, like in the time of Noah, Sunseem broke the seal that 1 month is like a year is like a cycle of the moon. So it's 1 moon, or 1 month is every year. So we just went over Genesis chapter 6 and 7, and it basically says that man is mortal, so his time will be 120 years. And if you divide that by 12, right, that turns into 10 years. So basically mankind had 10 years left because every year at that time was supposed to be a month, right? So then we might think to ourselves as, well, I don't get this then. What is it really saying? Is it really 4,000 years or not? Okay. So the one thing we need to understand when it comes to calculating the Old Testament, and this of course, within Christianity too, it is common knowledge that the Old Testament is 4,000 years, right? So calculating the number of years from Adam to Jesus is not as simple as just adding ages together. It's also piecing together information from various sources inside the Bible, right? Especially in the Old Testament time. So one of the key resources used is the genealogical records that trace the lineage from Adam to Jesus. So there's one of them, right? Is tracing the lineage. And these records are found especially in the book of Genesis and also the Gospel of Luke, specifically Luke chapter 3. Now, Luke provides a detailed genealogy of Jesus, tracing his ancestry back through David, Abraham, and ultimately to Adam. Now, following these genealogical clues, we can estimate the years between Adam and Jesus. Now, another thing that's really important that we have to know when it comes to calculating the Bible time, it's important to note that the Bible does not provide specific dates for the events and genealogical lineage mentioned, right? So we have to understand this too. So instead, it gives us an understanding of the generations and the general flow of time. Okay, so that's kind of remember, the Bible is more general. It's not giving you. It's not a historical book. It's a book about religious history, and that's why we're not going to see dates. We're going to have to match them up with what happened in Egypt. When was King Nebuchadnezzar ruling Babylon? When was this happening here at the time? Was there what does the Bible say of when Abraham came along? right? So the Bible doesn't have specific dates for the events. It does not have genealogical lineage mentioned at all. Instead, it gives us an understanding of the generations and the general flow of time. And one thing you need to keep in mind when it comes to the Bible itself is there are gaps in the genealogical records, right? Which does affect the accuracy of the calculations, which means because of these gaps, we are giving the best possible estimation of how old the Bible is or when Adam actually came, right? So even for us, what Sun Seemed Cracked was not the entire Old Testament from Adam and on. It was only Noah's time that he realized that it was 1 year for every month, right? Which means the other times we're not even sure about, right? It's only for that specific time, right? So is it 4,000 years? General knowledge is 4,000 years. And like we said, it's an estimation, right? And the Bible doesn't give specific dates for any of the events and any of the genealogical lineage mentioned. And that's why we're working backwards from it. Okay? So what God has done in his wisdom is that we're all able to realize at this point, and it's a general consensus in the Christian community, that the Old Testament was 4,000 years. Right? Of course, the last 2,000 years is much easier. And the time that is closer to Jesus, like the time of Alexander the Great, which was like almost 400 years before, more than 400 years before Jesus. Yeah, almost 400 years before Jesus. It was Malachi, and then it was Alexander the Great. And then, it was the Greek period. And then it was like Persians, Greeks, the Jewish period for 3 years, and then it went into the Roman Empire. So those times there are a lot easier, like 400 years before Jesus, a lot easier to calculate. And then before that time too, and maybe even into the time of Moses, we're able to calculate that really well. But the further goes back in time without specific dates and without the, I was telling you before, there are gaps in the genealogical record so far. It does affect the accuracy of the calculations, but at this moment, it is a general consensus for the religious community of the Bible that it is a 6,000-year-old history from the year 2000, or from Jesus until Adam is about 4,000 years. Okay, so that's how we understand this. The second question is very interesting. It says, the recent 3 Sunday messages kept teaching a new way to support Jesus' spiritual resurrection. And I am not certain what the new ways are, because everything I heard about Jesus' spiritual resurrection is what I've always heard. So I'm not sure if you guys noticed. Was there anything new in the explanation of Jesus' spiritual resurrection? I haven't heard it, but maybe I missed it, right? So this person is very inspired to upgrade their lecture notes. However, there is a newcomer that is still stuck with only one mystery, that Jesus' body disappeared from the cave. Right? So since God recorded in several parts of the Gospels in the Bible, I believe there's meaning and significance. Okay? So when it comes to a newcomer, yes, this is not an easy thing to explain to a newcomer. This is something that I'll tell you guys right now, especially if someone is a strong Christian or a Christian themselves, Jesus' resurrection is not the easiest thing to teach. It's a hit and miss. Some people will really get into it if you explain it really well, and some people won't, right? For me, I leave it as a mystery. I do, right? Like, even if the body is missing, it doesn't mean that Jesus is alive, just like Jesus is physically alive, just because the body is missing, right? There are so many reasons besides Jesus is physically living that there is no body. There's many reasons, right? So it is recorded in the Bible. Why? Because Jesus' body was placed in that tomb and then it went missing. Okay, so there is meaning and significance, but I don't really teach this until later after they realize, because it's not put it this way. There are some things that it's hard to explain, but the man of mission has the answer to it. But then in order for someone to believe the man of mission, believe in what the man of mission says, they first need to believe and realize who the man of mission is before they take the man of mission's word as truth, right? So it's kind of like, if Jesus says something about you, but you don't know who Jesus is, then the power of Jesus' words don't really mean much until you realize. So for some people, I do wait and just check and see at the people who are very, very strong Christians, stuff like that too. I don't really teach that far into the resurrection lesson. As long as they get the point about spiritual resurrection, that is something that I will bring up. And I will bring it up to them like, hey, what about Jesus' resurrection? What do they think? And I'll bring the points up that don't make sense, but I'll leave it at that kind of thing, right? So that is something that I do think we have to take into consideration. And what I'm going to talk about is what Sunseem said, but I don't want you... I don't want you to all of a sudden just go off and teach this person. Right? Right? What does that mean? Teach this person, which means, I wouldn't explain it like that. Right? So, here, let me give you an example. Okay? So, this is what Sunseem said about the situation of why the tomb was empty. Okay, so there is the scene in the Bible. I think it comes up twice in the Gospels. Sunseem explains about the scene where the angel came, moved the huge stone, and Jesus' body disappeared. Okay, Sunseem's explanation about this is what? There's something that has to be understood very, very clearly. Okay, so remember that this tomb did not belong to Jesus. Jesus' family didn't have enough money to have a tomb like that, like an open cave with the stone to roll over it. That's for rich people. And the thing you have to know is the person who owns that tomb was someone who followed Jesus, and his name was Joseph of Arimathea. Okay? So he was a rich man that owned the tomb. And what Sunseem was talking about of Joseph of Arimathea is that Joseph, the rich man, actually took the body. Right? The rich man took the body. And one of the reasons why they were scared is that the religious leaders wanted to take the body away so that Christians could not say that Jesus wrote, the religious leaders were worried that the Christians would steal the body and then say that, oh, look, Jesus has come back to life. So they, Joseph Arimathea, a rich man, basically took the body himself, paid off the guards that were there, and took the body somewhere else. Now, the one thing about the Jewish burial is having the body is super important. So imagine someone's trying to steal a body. Back in those old days, even if you go back 100 years, cremation wasn't even a big thing. Even in my days, cremation wasn't a big thing. Right? People didn't want to incinerate the bodies. They thought it was very, very sacred, right? So even more so 2,000 years ago at the time of Jesus, having the body was that important, and someone stealing it, like the religious leaders, was something that they didn't want. And one thing you need to know about when it comes to burying bodies at the Jewish time, that first they will they'll wrap the body, right, in a shroud, and then what happens is they close the tomb. What happens after this? Well, they wait for it about a year, and a year later, the whole body is decomposed, and the family comes in and takes the bones of the deceased a year later, puts them into the box, marks the box, right, of whose bones it actually is. Then they take this box and they put it into a tomb where all the ancestors are buried together. Right? And when they put it in that this box where you put all the bones, it's called an ossuary. Right? And this ossuary, they'll put the bones in the box and then they'll mark whose bones they are. Right? And then they put it together with other relatives. And this is kind of where the saying of resting with their ancestors came into being. Or that's where it comes from, because their bones are resting with their ancestors in the same tomb. So this was a very, very important thing. Now, this is something that Sunseem said in the past, but the thing that was super interesting is that in 1980, Israelis, in Israel, there are people digging, and they discovered ossuaries that were 2,000 years old, which means it was dating back to Jesus' time. But interestingly enough, one of the boxes said, Jesus, son of Joseph, and also next to, also in the area of that box was marked Mary, right? So one thing that historians did say about this was that finding these names together finding Jesus is a very common name at the time of 2,000 years ago. Jesus, Jesus, Yeshua, very, very common name. However, what is uncommon is Jesus, son of Joseph, and then having Mary's ossuary close to there too, which puts all the characters together, right? And it's very unlikely that another family had the exact same names, where it was a Jesus, son of Joseph, and a Mary was also had their ossuary next to them too. And the reason why this became so controversial in Christianity is the fact that if these were truly Jesus' bones, then it proves that Jesus did not physically resurrect, which would shatter Christianity. However, for us, what Sunseem said was, Sunseem, when this documentary came out, and this documentary came out from James Cameron. You guys know James Cameron, the director of Titanic, the director of Avatar. He's the one that came up with this documentary, and he went over this entire thing, and he basically told everyone, it's like, this is monumental. Now, when Sunseem heard about these bones being discovered, Sunseem says, we are not affected by this. We are not reliant upon whether they find these bones or not, because we believe in spiritual resurrection, right? Sunseem actually talked about the documentary, about these bones too, and said that these findings mean nothing to Providence, because we believe that Jesus died in the body, but resurrected in the spirit, right? So that's one of the things Sunseem was explaining about. But like I would say to you guys, you know, it's kind of like what Sunseem said with the education that I shared with you at the very beginning. Newcomers don't need to know everything. They just need to know the key points. They need to understand clearly, right? And that's something that I do think that you have to be very wise when you teach these types of things, because when you teach too much, or you teach things that are more like, for instance, it sounds more like theory until you realize who's the one saying it, right? And that's why not every newcomer will really, really be able to understand that too. The third question talks about 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 11, when Elijah was taken up into heaven in a whirlwind, okay? So the question is, how should we explain this heaven in accordance with the spiritual world lecture, where we teach Old Testament people go to the earthly spiritual world, which overlaps the earth? And one thing, this is a very, very easy one. In 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 11, the Hebrew used in this verse is not literally like heaven in heaven, like the spiritual world heaven. It just means upwards, towards the sky, right? To the heavens, not meaning heaven, but it means the sky, into the air, right? So in most cases, even when it comes to like when you read Genesis chapter 1, when God created the heavens and the earth, is not literally heaven. Why? It makes no sense if God is living in heaven and then he creates heaven when he creates the earth. No, heaven is forever. It's been around for eternity. So even when you look at Genesis, the Hebrew used there is not heaven as in heaven where God resides, but the heavens is actually saying what is up in the sky, what is upwards, what is skywards, right? So that's why it has no effect on the spiritual world lecture. It's not talking about literal heaven. It's talking about going in. He was taken into the sky, upwards, skywards. Okay, so that's kind of, that's what that is actually saying right there too. So if that makes a lot of sense to you guys, well, I hope it does make a lot of sense to you guys, because there are a lot of things that there's a lot of things that we just got to look into. Is this really what the Bible's actually saying? Okay. So, yeah, poll is going well, too, as normal. Encouragement is at 42%, and then you have teaching at 18%, hospitality at 17%, but leadership's at the bottom at 9%, too. But that's kind of reality. Reality is you're going to have a very, very small number of people that actually have leadership qualities and capabilities, but, you don't need a lot. Even 9-10% is actually pretty good. So imagine you have a church of 100 people. Having 10 leaders is great. That really, really is. And here it's 9%, so it's 9 out of 100, which I think is a very healthy number for 100 people, because that's like head leader. If that's 9 people, you have like a head leader, assistant leader, right? So there's 2 right there. You have 7 left. You have like career department, campus, SS, that's 3 more. You have 4 left. You have like family department leaders. You have evangelism leaders, lecturing leaders, and you still have 1 more leader left. And I think it's something that that's something that we really need. And I think 9%, it's a small number, but I don't think it's like a really, really bad thing that we have 9% of leadership. I don't think it's a bad thing at all, right? So yeah. Yeah, so a lot of different things going on each and every day, and I hope that you guys have been enjoying your week thus far too, just as I have been enjoying this week very, very much, and I'm looking forward to the weekend of sleep. It's still Thursday for me. It's about 4:22 p.m. I have volleyball tonight at 7:30, and then, of course, going to shower, do laundry, a checkout of the Airbnb, and then go straight to the airport, get there by, 12:30, 1 a.m., and just going to enjoy our time over there too. All right. So either way, that is kind of what that's kind of my schedule. One more day of just one more night of sleeping really late. But tomorrow, Friday and Saturdays are my weekends. So I get to sleep in as much as possible so that I can get myself back into my regular scheduling once again. Okay. So, today we also have the Wednesday Message Word Study for the second segment. Hope you guys are looking forward to that too. Very powerful message. And I hope you guys were inspired by that also. But before that, let's get into the first break of the day.
You lift me up from falling. I feel your warm embrace, breathing life into my withering spirit, pouring out your love and grace. So I think to myself, I'll repay you. Ooh, oh. You pulled me out of darkness so many thousands of times. You gave me strength and courage, everything that I need in life. Look at all the countless blessings, I'll repay you. Ooh, oh. Even if the world forsakes you and they misunderstand what it means to be in providence, holding God's truth in our hands, we fulfill the greatest history, God's will and highest love. All the wondrous miracles you've shown, only here in Providence. Providence, push forward, we'll run till the end. With our solid faith, we'll repay you with all our heart, will and life. And now the seals are broken, the treasures now revealed. You've shared his highest wisdom, valued secrets of how to live. Looking back at all the memories, I'll repay you. Ooh, oh. Even if the world forsakes you and they misunderstand, what a blessing it is that you're here, acting with God hand in hand. We've received the greatest rapture, we've gained eternal joy. This is God's final history, never will it be destroyed. Providence will shine our brightest light for your dreams. Your word fills the earth. Yeah, we'll preach, gain all that you want to achieve. Even if the world forsakes you and they don't understand, we're more than proud to be here, holding God's truth in our hands. We fulfill the greatest history, God's will and highest love. Your words, your precious providence, we'll cherish it till the end. Providence, we'll stand till the end. Providence, we'll live with our God. Providence, love God with our heart. We'll end life.
All right, so let's get into our second segment, which is the word study. And every Friday we do have the Wednesday message word study. And short message, but what a powerful message. It was a new title, God's Time Has to Come. And what a hopeful message we received. We have some new verses in there too, but man, I love this message because it was it was so hopeful. Just the fact that, in the past you could be trampled on, held in contempt, and it wasn't ready yet. The time had not come. And once God's time comes, what happens? Then you will reach that point where you're in a great position, right? So the time has to come for God's work. Right? There has to be a time for God. So this is interesting. Like that beginning point I liked is like, hey, the reason why people fail and the reason why we get into so many problems is because we take action anytime we want. And that's our biggest problem. The reason why we fail, the reason why we can't get things done, the reason why so many problems happen because of our actions is because we take action at any time that we think is right, where God is waiting for his time. Which means what? Even for us, when it comes to us and understanding the history of God, a lot of times we're impatient. A lot of times we don't realize what we truly should be doing, but we need to realize that God's time has to come, right? When we can understand God's time, this is why we understand the repeating history. We can figure out, God did this in the past, so you have to wait 40 years, 40 days. You have to wait 70 years. You have to wait this much time, and then something great is going to happen. Right? And we have to be those that think about how the Holy Trinity took action in the past. We have to think about it. We have to pray about it. We have to ask the Holy Trinity, right? Or else what happens to us is we start pushing things because we think it's right. You know, a lot of times we get upset at God because we think to ourselves is, God, why doesn't it work right now? And the answer is it doesn't work because it's not the right time. And I'm sure a lot of us were thinking about this from last year. Like, God, why is this happening? When's it going to end? And then, it was a good question from yesterday. Good question from yesterday is, well, how do the blessings happen? Blessings happen when the time comes. Some things will happen right at the beginning. Some things will take a couple months. Some things take a year. Some things takes 2 or 3 years. But we've got to set those conditions so these things actually happen. Because if we do not follow God's time, we commit the conflict in ignorance, and we are not just going to fail, but think about what happened to Josiah. He was supposed to have the ultimate blessing of blessings, but because he could not wait, he died instead. Now, I'm not saying to you guys that you're going to die, but I can say that what we go through, what we do, these plans that we have can die even though they were made to succeed. Even though, right? So it's always when we don't know. It's always when we think God's time is this or that. This is when we don't know, we commit the conflict in ignorance. We can commit those things that we cannot understand, right? We have to know first. And what's going to happen is when we don't know and then bad things happen, this is when we start to have doubts. This is when we complain. And then complaining turns to cursing. Cursing turns to disbelief. Disbelief turns into slander. And this is kind of what people go through, right? When we don't know, we go through suffering. And then we think to ourselves, why are we going through this suffering? And then we start to doubt a bit. And then we start to complain. And then we start to curse. And then we start to disbelieve. And then then we become slanderers out of nowhere. Right? So we have to be those that are always waiting for God's time. Now, in the large scale, what's the big time we're waiting for? It is the complete testament. It is the 1,000-year history. It is the time when the Lord's second coming comes, right? When the new time comes, then we change our perception, right? That's when everything changes. Because think about this. Even for me, coming from the former faith, there are things that I knew at the former faith level, but the moment I heard the words of this history, it clicks. And you're like, oh, that's what it finally means. And because of that, I'm able to move until the next level, right? And understand it even that much better. My perception changes of, this is how the Lord actually comes. Oh, this is what true resurrection is. This is what the purpose of creation actually is, which means our mindset, our thoughts, everything will change on how the outlook we have on life and who we are. Right? It basically opens our eyes, just like that song, Amazing Grace. I was blind, but now I see. What does that mean? It means perception has changed. Perception has changed because the new time has come. We've learned new things in new ways, right? Now, here's where it gets interesting. I love this when it talks about people. When a person's time has come, they were treated with contempt. And the moment I heard this, I was thinking about Sunsteam the whole time. But then you'll be admired like a treasure when the time comes. And I was like, that's powerful. When the time comes, you'll be admired like a treasure. This is a hopeful message, right? It's a truly hopeful message. That's something that we have to look at. And the example he gave was finding the landscape rock, the one that's next to the camel rock too, right? It's really amazing when you listen to some of these stories where Sunsteam is just led by the Spirit, and all of a sudden he finds the most amazing, rock artwork masterpiece. In the beginning, he looked down upon it. In the beginning, he wanted to kick it, get rid of it, but it was too big. But later, when the time came, the Holy Spirit opens his eyes and he gets to see the true form of the rock. And that's a lot of these times. It happens to us too. It's kind of like the ugly duckling, right? The ugly duckling grows into an amazing swan, right? They think it's a duck, but it's actually a swan, and it becomes so beautiful. And in the same way too, we just have to keep doing what we need to do. We have to keep pushing ourselves to make ourselves more and more until the time comes. Yes, you may be ignored. You may be put down right now. But as long as you keep making yourself, when God's time has come, you will be seen for who you truly are. You'll be seen for how amazing you really, really are. And that is something that I looked at as like, that is such a hopeful message. The time has to come. And then God will reveal you. God will reveal the one God sent through the Holy Spirit, and people's eyes will be opened. Right? And, in the past, you kind of feel like you're treated in such you're treated in such a lowly way. But we have to wait for that time to come, right? Those treated with contempt will be used valuably when the time comes, right? So don't grumble, everyone. The time has to come. So don't complain. Don't grumble. Don't talk about yourself like, oh, why am I like this? Oh, why is it like this? Why did you do this to me? When the time comes, you'll become a treasure. And that for me was the most powerful message from them, right? When the time comes, what does Sunsteam say? The person treated with contempt as a target of slander will be seen differently. Tell me that is so hopeful. That is so hopeful. Sunsteam's not going to be looked at like this forever. He's not. There will come a time where God will finally show everyone who he truly is. And what we have to do is just make sure that we preach. Make sure that we share the gospel, that we tell people what is happening right now in this history, how the Lord's second coming actually comes. Right? Everything is really about us and working according to the purpose of creation. And once we do this, then we can be used more valuably and preciously. Even though people may look down on us, we'll still be used valuably if we work according to the purpose of creation. We just got to wait for that time to come. And you know what, guys? It's fine. If there's someone who's doing something for the very first time, yeah, they're not good at it. And it's okay. And we got to acknowledge that we're not good at it. And that's fine. And that's okay. But we also need to know that everyone's going to have their time. And we have to be those that are supporting each other more than putting each other down and bringing each other down too. Right? So I hope that all of us, when the time comes, we will, just like Wonmingdong, it was looked down upon in the beginning, even by Sunsteam, but when the time came, it became God's actual palace. Right? this last part that I liked about the message when Sunseam says, everyone has struggles and everyone has pains in life, but God knows and God understands what everyone is going through. That is so comforting. God knows your pain and your struggles, but when the time comes, things will turn out well. So persevere, endure, work hard, put in the effort, and when the time comes, this is when you will shine brightly like the sun. You become like the stars in the sky. So I really, it was such a hopeful message for just Providence and for Sunseam, right? I'm not so worried about myself. I'm more of, hey, this is about Sunseam. This is about Providence history. And there's going to come a time where we're all going to be ready for this too. Okay? So there it is, guys. It's a short one because the message was quite short too, but I hope that you guys received a lot of grace from this. If you have anything you want to add to this, go ahead, leave it in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you guys got from the Wednesday message too. Okay? So, yeah, we have our final segment today, which is going to be Until the End with Daniel Baker. Hope you guys are going to enjoy this too. Just wait for a little bit because, not wait for a little bit. Before we get into the segment, like I'm waiting for his segments so I can edit it in. But you guys don't need to wait because by the time you guys get this, you don't need to wait for it. So that's just me talking to myself. I'm sorry. Either way. So let's get into the final break of the day.
Yeah. Providence history represents Sierra Leone, West Africa.
On the mix.
Since the day that I met this history, my spirit became brand new. Thanks be to the Holy Trinity for making my whole life new. I know one said I said the greatest condition for making my whole life new. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. Since the day that I met this history, my spirit became brand new. Thanks be to the Holy Trinity for making my whole life new. I'm the one said I said the greatest condition for making my whole life new. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. We give thanks and praise to the Holy Trinity and the one sent in this history of Providence to empty our thoughts and to receive all the words that is stronger than the rod and sharper than the sword. Into fight it like a battle, like a lion in the jungle, not stopping at the middle, but we'll take it to the ending. The word that will make us fly like an eagle. We are overwhelmed with joy with our body, soul and spirit, cause it's true word of God that is giving us joy. Every night and day we are seeking the Lord. Moreover, taking action resembling the Lord and spreading it in the world. Since the day that I met this history, my spirit became brand new. Thanks be to the Holy Trinity for making my whole life new. I'm the one said I said the greatest condition for making my whole life new. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. Since the day that I met this history, my spirit became brand new. Thanks be to the Holy Trinity for making my whole life new. I'm the one said I said the greatest condition for making my whole life new. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Is your history, is a history, Providence history came to me like a mystery. Is your history, is a history, Providence history came to me like a mystery. Since the day that I came to Providence, my spirit became brand new. Thanks be to the Holy Trinity for making my dreams come true. And the ones that I said the greatest condition for making everything new. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. We just wanna say thank you, thank you. Since the day that I met this history, my spirit became brand new. Thanks be to the Holy Trinity for making my whole life new. I'm the one said I said the greatest condition for making my whole life new. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Just wanna say thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. I just wanna say thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
It's Kima on the mix.
And what a wonderful song from the Sierra Leone Church over there in West Africa. That song is Thanks Be to the Holy Trinity. I do believe there's 2 more songs that they made, so I will be playing those from next week. Okay? So let's get into the final segment of today and for the entire week. Of course, we have Daniel Baker over there in Korea with Until the End. I hope you guys enjoy this. Please welcome Daniel Baker, who's preparing to come to Malaysia with Until the End.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Do It Until the End podcast. I hope everyone is having an amazing week with the Trinity, and let's have a really good rest of the week together. So I hope everyone is getting ready for the weekends. You know, the weekends are such a fun time, preparing for the Sunday service, and there's a lot of things we need to do, but let's do it well together. So, you know, this whole start of the year, we really talked about one topic in this podcast segment. And you guys all know the topic because I've repeated it so many times. It's so many times. Habits, 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 right? I talked about habits a lot, like 2 months, 3 months. Now it's almost yes. It's March already. Come on, guys. If you guys don't have your habits intact, you know, 2024 might just go off. We're just saying stuff. But you know, we talked about why habits are so important, but also why breaking those bad habits, why is it important, right? So the good habits, you know, you get those gradual increases, right? And you're suddenly like 20 times better or 10 times better at some habit you really like to do, right? But having a bad habit is the same thing, right? You suddenly you don't feel that the bad habit's influencing you, but that bad habit over a long period of time has really influenced you in a big way, right? So we talked about habits for like 2 months, right? How to really make good habits. Today, it's going to be the last episode on habits. I know it feels bad, but next week we're going to talk about a new habit, right? Or not a new habit, but a new topic for you guys, right? So, but the last episode today, we're going to talk about 4 different laws of how to break a bad habit, right? So I hope everyone can really understand that the importance of breaking a bad habit, because as important of, you know, it's very important to make good habits, but it's also as much important to break those bad habits, right? It can be the amounts of like greatness you get from those good habits can be canceled out if you have a lot of bad habits, right? It doesn't really matter if you, through your good habits, if you make a ton of good money, right? But if you have really bad spending and financial habits, the money's already gone, right? So, okay, let's go into the first habit or the first law of breaking a bad habit. First law, make it invisible. So what you want to do is you want to reduce your exposure to the cue. What is the cue? The cue is the thing that triggers your bad habit, right? So for some people, right, the Oreos. Let's say you have a really bad habit of eating cookies. And whenever you watch an ad of Oreos, those amazing ads, they're saying they have the dunking of the Oreo into the beautiful silky milk, and yeah, that triggers you to go get a pack of Oreos at the convenience store, right? Bad habit, I'm getting fat again, my body percentage, I look bad, all these, you see why it's bad, right? However, the first step you can take is reducing the exposure, right? So if you're always getting targeted ads about like the Oreos and stuff, or those bad triggers, put an ad blocker. Make sure you reduce the exposure to your triggers, right? And these are just general guidelines. There's examples, right? And it's kind of our responsibility, my responsibility, your responsibility to really understand what our triggers are for our bad habits, right? And reducing the exposure, right? Okay, so number 2, make it unattractive, right? What you need to do is you need to reframe your mindset on the particular thing, right? So it's very easy to just say something, right? Saying something is very easy, but really understanding something and making sure that you kind of know that it's kind of wrong from the deep down in your heart, it's very different, right? So just saying like, oh, my bad habit is so bad, right? Just saying that to other people and saying that is a bad habit, you know, that's easy to do. But what's really hard or difficult to do is saying or looking yourself in the mirror and saying why this thing is bad for me and why I shouldn't be doing that and why I won't be doing that in the future, right? That's really important, right? Okay, so the third law is make it difficult, right? So this is the same as, this is like the opposite of making it easy, right? If you want to have a good habit, you want to make it easy, right? As we said, like if you want to make sure you have your supplements, you know, put them in a place where you can see them, right? Put them in a place where it's very easy for you to just do it and then just take it and then forget it the rest of the day, right? Opposite is true for bad habits. You want to make sure that it's more difficult. You want to increase the friction, right? You want to make sure that the Oreos, we'll use the Oreos example again. We want to make sure the Oreos are like on the top shelf, right? On the top shelf, you need to put a chair down and then you have to stand up on the chair and then you have to reach all the way up. You have to go, and then you have to pull it down and then maybe there's a lock or like a safe. You have to go down to the basement and then you have to check what the lock safe was or the password was and then you have to, and then you finally have the Oreos and then, you know, so many ways to increase the friction of your bad habits. And that's one way, or it gives you, it's like barriers to entry, right? You need more motivation or you need more strength to actually do the habit, right? So you want to increase the friction when it comes to your bad habits, right? Okay, so the fourth and last law, make it unsatisfying, right? Yeah. How do you make it unsatisfying? This is one of the interesting things that we need to really do our yeongu. We need to really do our due diligence and make sure we understand how to make these bad habits very unsatisfying. Because a lot of our bad habits are really connected to dopamine, right? Or our food, our our media. What we need to do, or one of the best things we can do to make it very unsatisfying, is to have an accountability partner, right? Have a friend, have a person, right? That you can constantly talk to that will make sure you're in check, right? Make sure to understand and tell you why, and make sure why you're still on this path. Make sure to tell you why you're trying to break this habit, right? And tell you and call you out, right? You're not supposed to be doing this, right? Come on, bro. We talked about this, right? We talked about this in great length for like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and you told me, bro. I told you You told me that you didn't want to be like this anymore. You want to break this habit that you've had for 2, 3, 4 years. And you finally, you forgot, right? Having an accountability partner can really put you on track, right? Especially if you derail, it can really put you back on track. So one of the best ways to make it unsatisfying is to have an accountability partner that kind of puts you on track and kind of like whips you around and say, you know, there's a reason why you told me this, right? I'm not doing this for no reason. I do this because I care for you, but also I really want you to succeed. That's why I'm putting you on track. That's the thing that, you know, that's why we try to break our habits, right? So it's very important to break our habits. You know, from next week, we're going to talk about some new thing. I hope you guys really are excited for that. Habits are so important, you know, making sure your habits are intact, especially during the new year. Very important. Okay, so that's all I have for you guys today. I hope everyone who is going until the end with the Trinity, let's walk this path together. Peace out, guys. Bye-bye.
And that's a big thank you to Daniel Baker. Wonderful episode once again. Hope you guys really, really enjoyed that. If you have any questions or comments or just even some encouragement, because remember, 42% of you have the gift of encouragement. Go ahead and leave some encouragement for Eddie, for the people doing Health is Happiness, and also for Daniel Baker. Everyone, have an amazing weekend, and we'll see you guys again once again on Monday on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm